Well, hey everyone, I'm excited to bring you an amazing guest, Professor Seyfried. Okay, he's the author of this book right here, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. This is my new favorite book. Incredible. You need a little bit of biochemistry to get through it, but there's a lot of parts that are really easy to understand. And Professor Seyfried has taught and conducted research in the field of neurogenetics, neurochemistry, and cancer for more than 25 years at Yale University, Boston College. He's published more than 150 scientific articles and book chapters, and is on the editorial boards of Nutrition and Metabolism, Journal of Lipid Research, Neurochemical Research, and ASN Neuro. So welcome, and I really appreciate you spending some time talking with me today.
Oh, thanks, Eric. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. I think it's important to start out, if we could, on the big idea here, where, and kind of, if you could do it in layperson's language, just to describe the difference between a normal cell and cancer cell. I think that's important to just talk about that.
Yeah, well, there are many differences. The prime difference in my mind is the difference in the way the cells generate energy. And all the cells in our body need to generate energy. And otherwise they die. You know, I mean, energy is energy. So our whole bodies, we breathe in oxygen and we give off CO2 and produce water as byproducts of aerobic respiration.
So aerobic respiration basically is how normal cells or healthy cells make energy. They take the protein, fat, and carbs with oxygen, that's aerobic, equals energy.
The tumor cell, on the other hand, pretty much functions without oxygen. So in order to function without oxygen, this is referred to as fermentation.
So the term fermentation is a primitive or ancient system of how cells can make energy without oxygen. The two main fuel sources for cancer are sugar and glutamine, which is a protein.
So all tumor cells, as far as I can see and as far as I've looked at, are more dependent on fermentation for energy than they are for respiration for energy, using oxygen. So this is why they live in hypoxic environments. They can survive in these environments because they primarily ferment. And when you ferment, you become limited in the types of fuels that you need, because oxidative phosphorylation, respiration, is an extremely efficient way to generate ATP, energy.
So the term oxidative phosphorylation is the final stage in respiration, which is how normal cells or healthy cells make energy.
You need a little bit of material like glucose or some other fat or whatever, and you can generate large amounts of energy just from respiration. But if you don't respire, the fermentation pathways are less efficient, therefore the substrates have to be present in large amounts. So the tumor cell is dependent on large amounts of glucose and large amounts of glutamine. And those are the two primary fermentable fuels. So the differences between a normal cell and a cancer cell is primarily the way they generate energy. The tumor cell needs to ferment. The normal cells can respire.
Got it. And can you touch on the origin of cancer? Because I think mainstream research is really focused on this genetic piece, but they're not getting into the metabolic or the damage to the mitochondria. Can you touch on that?
Well, I mean, that's the oncogenic paradox.
So oncogenic means something that causes tumors, and paradox in this context means something that sounds logical but leads to an unacceptable conclusion.
Cancer can be caused by many different insults to our body. Carcinogens, you know, people look at that and they say, well, that's why we call something a carcinogen, because it has the potential to cause cancer in laboratory animals and humans. You know, radiation causes cancer. Viruses cause cancer. So the question is, how are these provocative agents causing cancer? The gene theory says that the carcinogen will cause mutations, and the mutations then lead to dysregulated cell growth. So you have to say, what is the primary characteristic of tumor? And it is dysregulated cell growth. So how does a cell under normal conditions, become dysregulated in its growth. So, for example, a carcinogen is thought to cause a type of mutation, which will then cause the tumor cell to become growth unrestricted. And if you look at radiation, is thought to cause mutations. Some viruses are thought to cause mutations, and these mutations were thought to be the cause of the cancer. However, every one of those same provocative agents also damages the mitochondria in the cell, the very organelle needed for normal respiration. Now, what happens is a carcinogen will enter into the mitochondria, leading to the formation of ROS, reactive oxygen species, which are carcinogens and mutagens.
So the term reactive oxygen species, ROS, is a reactive compound containing oxygen. Can be formed from within the cell as a byproduct of something, or externally from things like smoking, chemicals, drugs, radiation.
So what happens, the mitochondria produces ROS, which then causes the mutations. So the mutations are an effect of the damage to the respiration, not the cause of the cancer. The cancer and the mutations are both effects of the damage to the respiration. So this changes the whole game as to what the nature of this disease is. And we went through and documented very carefully all of the different agents that cause cancer, and every one of them first damages the respiration, leading to ROS, leading to the mutations. So this whole concept of mutations is mostly nonsense. It's absolutely a misdirected effort, which is and the tragic consequences. Over 1,600 people a day are dying from cancer as the result of this tragic misunderstanding of the nature of the disease.
Wow.